and welcome to the February edition of the Finance Committee of the MTA Board. Excited to have you all here. And Jake, sorry? March, that too. Fine. Don't be so nitpicky. Okay. Anyway, that's Andrew's job to pick. Anyway, Jake. It is March. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's let Jake introduce our public speakers so we may begin. Jake, the floor is yours, sir.
We have 3 registered speakers today. We ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. In the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. There will be a warning beep to remind you there are 30 seconds remaining to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by Alita Dupree. Greif, excuse me.
And I was just eating something, I almost choked, and I caused grief. Good afternoon. I'm Christopher D. Greif, Greif. First of all, on the finance, I just wanted to say thank you to Jay and happy Women's Day, because as I've been looking at the finance, and I have seen other people, and I'll say the true advocates, they actually understand what you've been saying in finance, breaking it down. And that's how we can try to communicate the people to understand how to budget. We still going to have to work on budgeting, telling people, not just in the city, but Young, Westchester, Nice Bus. We need to just continue doing that. So that's something that we have to work together. Neil, everything okay, because I thought you were talking to me. I'm sorry. Yeah, as I was trying to say is I want to wish happy MTA appreciation, because we do appreciate every MTA, every government relations, every person. If I say everyone, the time will be up. But I do want to thank the Finance Committee, because the finance, well, at least we know how can we work together and keep the budget for low-income families. Thank you, and happy Women's Day, who just came in, in case you didn't hear. Thank you.
Our next speaker is remote, Alita Dupree, followed by Jason Anthony.
Thank you, Chair and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds representing Skirt Folds. Finance is essential. Before I go into the meat of my presentation, I just want to say that Jay is doing excellent work as your Chief Financial Officer, and I enjoy the presentations, which I feel are clear and understandable in their direction. So thank you for that. We've sunsetted the sale of Metro cards, and we're going into the world of Omni. And Tap to Ride is coming. And I think that we can do it. It's not very hard. I've been doing Tap to Ride, for over a dozen years. Oh, no, more than that, since 2010 in the Bay Area. Been doing Tap to Ride. Beginning on BART in California, the People System. How do we get people interested in doing new things, especially things that are easier than the old ways? Definitely takes outreach and providing opportunities, building our retail network so people can go in their communities to the stores that they already use and add money to their Omni cards, because it's not just about phones and watches and things like that. Plastic cards are good too. We always have to have those. People can load those up at the store and use those for riding our system. And hopefully we can get the new fare gates in, just like they've done on BART. Fare evasion is a big problem. Everyone should pay to use the system because I pay for it and I want it to be there for me. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Jason Anthony.
Thank you, Jake. Hey, Jake. Hey, Neil. Gonna keep it short and sweet. Jay, I would love to hear the update regarding our finances. And I would love to hear if you could give us, if time permits, like a 3-month update regarding our finances throughout the year to see how our finances are performing since January, because I know that we were affected by multiple winter storms, and we know that not only those winter storms affected our region, it affected almost half of the United States. So I want to see if you could give us an update regarding that. And if you could give us also an outlook through the remainder of the year. And I want to see those numbers positive. And if you could give us a, let's say, an outlook, if we could have, let's say, a positive, and let's say in the other years, if God forbid we don't have no more fare hikes. So that's all I have to for this month. I'll see you guys Wednesday.
This concludes the public comments portion of the agenda.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you to our public speakers for their constant vigilance on our fiscal health. We appreciate that attentiveness, as does this board. Motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was actually in February, not this fake February that I alluded to. May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Hayda. Second. Thank you, Sam. Any deletions, corrections, or additions? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Jake, will have you give us the monthly financial report, which may even address the transit guru's concerns about the last month and the weather situation.
Yes, I will go through the highlights from the operating budget section. I'll turn it over to Olga, who will touch on some elements regarding capital financing, and then Jay. So operating results through February are $138 million favorable compared with the adopted budget. This was driven primarily by favorable operating subsidies and investment income of $96 million. Operating expenses and debt service were also favorable, despite high overtime associated with preparation and response for storms Hernando and Fern. Operating revenues, however, were unfavorable by $27 million, as the bad weather resulted in fewer trips. Going further into revenues, operating subsidy favorability was driven primarily by urban taxes, which reflects real estate activity in the region. These were favorable by $65 million in the month of February and $94 million February year-to-date. Capital subsidies were also favorable by $10 million in the month of February and $30 million year-to-date, primarily due to better-than-expected receipts from real property transfer taxes. As mentioned, due to bad weather, farebox revenue was unfavorable by $15 million in February and $22 million year-to-date, while tolls were unfavorable by $11 million in February and $2.3 million year-to-date. On the expense side, operating expenses were favorable by $74 million in February and $59 million year-to-date. This was driven by favorability in payroll, timing of prescription drug rebates, professional service costs, and materials and supplies costs. This favorability was partially offset, as I mentioned, by higher than budgeted overtime driven by the major storms. In addition to operating expenses, debt service was favorable by $6.4 million in February and $10 million year-to-date. In addition to looking back at the results through February, I should add that one area we're monitoring as we look ahead is what effects the conflict with Iran may have on MTA finances. For instance, increases in fuel prices, changes in global credit markets, and a general economic slowdown in the New York City region could affect both our costs as well as our revenues. We'll continue to keep the board updated as we monitor these trends in the run-up to the July financial plan. With that, I'll turn now to my colleague Olga with more on the capital finance.
Jake, let me just pause you there before we get into finances, because I think the operating budget is a worthwhile moment to pause. Any questions for Jake on the operating budget? Jake, I'll just ask you to do a favor, maybe for the newer board members. You highlighted first urban taxes. Maybe you should just describe what that is and what our real estate taxes we derive revenue from are, because I think their names are not necessarily directly correlated with the source of revenue, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So there's multiple types of tax streams that the MTA receives money from as it relates to real estate. So we can follow up with a little bit more in writing and point to the relevant sections of the financial plan, but as a highlight, There are real property transfer taxes on the transfer of the real estate itself. There's also mortgage recording taxes on different mortgages. So it's a complicated set of tax and subsidy streams, but long story short, as there are higher property values and higher transaction volumes, that benefits the MTA financially.
So it's fair to say that the more people buy and sell real estate, the more money we get, because we get a percentage of any transaction that happens over a certain size, as well as any mortgages taken in the region that reflects the MTA.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Olga, over to you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Jake. Today I'm reporting on the results of a recent refunding transaction. It was priced in early March, short after the start of the conflict in Iran. While interest rates were higher than in the prior week, our $764 million payroll mobility bonds transaction still generated strong investor interest. With this transaction, we were able to address upcoming put and repayment dates for certain outstanding bonds, as well as lock in $28.5 million in net present value savings. That's roughly 8% of the refunded bond par, and that's a fairly strong result. Most of these benefits will benefit our financial plan years. In the week following our transaction, interest rates increased even further in response to the conflict, so we were fortunate to not delay our transaction. The main impact of the Iran conflict on municipal markets that we're seeing so far is increased rates as investors recalibrate their early inflation expectations. At the same time, the municipal market in particular benefited from strong technical parameters such as lower than anticipated bond issuance year to date so far, and healthy cash inflows into the market. Looking ahead, the finance team is actively working on several transactions, including refinancing of outstanding congestion revenue zone loan and replacing an expiring revolving line of credit for working capital purposes. I'm happy to take
Great,
any
thank you.
questions.
Olga, let's first take David, then Sammy.
Does the downgrading of New York City's debt have any impact on us?
It doesn't have any direct impact on MTA credit ratings.
Sammy.
I think this was only just touched on because we've had more detailed conversations in this committee about commodity hedging. Obviously, one of the biggest, most volatile, things that's happening is the energy markets. I would love to know what our position is in terms of how we are hedged now, how far we can go out before we kind of lose the protection of hedging. Should this be sustained?
Yeah, I think this question was anticipated, and I know that Jay was planning to speak to that. So Jay, do you want to cover it, or do you
Do I
want
get an
me to
award
go
for
through
asking
it?
an anticipated question?
No.
I'll take another cookie.
So I do have that in my remarks. I'll go over them in a little bit. If there are any other questions for Olga before I go into my.
I didn't realize this was the finale, the grand finale. So thank you. I'll wait. I can be patient.
1 point for Sammy.
Anything else, Olga? No?
Nothing is this time.
Thanks.
Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So
Can
just.
you tell us about hedging and for commodity hedging, please?
I will. Well, let me start there. So, as you're aware, and as you've brought up, energy markets are volatile. Diesel prices are elevated due to the geopolitical and supply pressures that we're having. We at the MTA have a fuel hedging program. At any given time, we are 50% hedged of our fuel purchases. So currently, we are a year out on our 50% hedge. It's for currently, I will say just a couple examples. Our average hedge for the next 12 months is locked in at $2.19. So in
Gasoline or diesel?
diesel.
Ultra low
Ultra.
sulfur.
What does that mean? So for every dollar of price increase above the $2.19, it equates to about $2.7 million of savings for that month for the MTA. So for example, in February and March, we're seeing prices hover at $4.25. We're hedged at about $2.27. So that could be about a $5 million savings in the given month for MTA. So we are on our way. There's no restrictions for our hedging program. We've historically done a 50% hedge for the MTA. That's the right sort of mix that we have for budget certainty. Going forward, we actually will start judging sort of where we want to land in the market, because that's, March 2027 now that we're thinking about, and you don't want to hedge against a higher volatile price depending on how the geopolitical environment and supply goes. So Olga and the team are, looking at the market every day and deciding how we hedge every month. So it's a market monthly hedge that we do.
But for the time being, we're in a pretty good spot, and
Yep.
being
So-
vigilant.
Yep. Every month we're hedged about 50%. What does that mean? That's about 2.5 million gallons a month that we're hedged against. So we consume about 5 million gallons.
Keep going.
Yep, okay. So update, sort of reiterating what you heard from Jake. February results and year-to-date results were about $140 million favorable, largely due to subsidies. We saw urban taxes and PMT favorable for the month, as well as some expenses of around $60 million due to spending timing, but also we had some overtime above budget because of the 2 winter storms that we saw in January and February. A couple of things that I want to highlight for the finance team here. We continue to defend the CBD tolling program in litigation, and in March, as many of you read and heard, Judge Lyman issued decisions that solidified the legal foundation for congestion pricing, keeping the program firmly on track. On a separate note, last week, the MTA filed a lawsuit seeking the release of approximately $60 million in withheld federal funds contractually obligated for the nearly $7 billion Second Avenue subway extension, Phase 2. Also, in early March, as part of New York State's $2 billion FEMA obligation for the COVID-related grant, MTA is part of that. We have an obligation of $600 million as part of that release. That's planned in the financial plan already. If you remember, it was a risk item on the financial plan. We planned it over the next 3 years. Hopefully, we continue to put into our grant portal the audit samples, and we get to draw down that first obligation. That would be about $492 million that would come in the next 90 days as part of a financial plan. A little bit of reiteration from Olga. We continue to manage the capital financing proactively. We're reducing debt service risk, locking in favorable rates where we can, and supporting long-term stability. Last year, if you recall, we saved about $146 million through refinancing while we continue to advance our capital program. Our credit profile remains strong, with most credits in high-grade category, critical for attracting investors in today's volatile markets. We remain active in the market, but disciplined. Bonds are a core component of the capital program, and we expect to issue approximately $5 billion of additional debt this year. That's excluding any refundings that we are going to do. While the market remains accessible to date, geopolitical and macroeconomic conditions continue to create some uncertainty. As a reminder, we are not obligated to transact any given time, and we continue to monitor conditions closely, moving forward only when execution is prudent and proving to be favorable to the MTA. I'll end my remarks there for any questions.
Any questions for our CFO? Well, look, thank you for keeping us stable in what feels an unstable moment in our nation and our world, but riders will ride, and we will keep going. And hopefully, Jake's comments notwithstanding, we will continue to see a healthy real estate market here in New York City. So let's move on then back to Jake for the annual procurement report, please.
As required by the Public Authorities Law, this report details contracts that were awarded or for which payments were made in 2025. The full report is available in the committee exhibits, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any comments related to our annual procurement report, which I am sure everyone digested with great intent reading over the last month? Hearing none, it must have been quite comprehensive. Thank you very much. Jake, next, Jake, I guess we want to talk about our mission statement, yes?
Yes. Also a requirement of the Public Authorities Law is that the MTA annually re-examine its mission statement, reassess its stakeholders, list the MTA's goals, and its associated key performance measurements. The report, included in the committee book, compiles these required elements for 2025. Juliet Michelson, MTA Chief of Staff, is here in case any board members have further questions about this filing.
Why is this a finance committee topic?
So the reason it's been brought to Finance Committee, and I see Juliet may add here,
Julie, you
because
can-
of
so remember.
the timing this year, which got a little bit wonky with the January and February committees.
It normally goes to the governance.
Okay, that's what I thought. Does anyone know what the mission of the MTA is? No, this is the mission of the MTA. As Juliet just said, this usually goes to governance, which makes sense. But since governance is not meeting, because it doesn't meet monthly, we are the entity for the approval of the mission statement. So this gentleman in the back has his hand raised.
Joseph Thompson, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Why don't you come to the microphone, sir? Why don't you come to the microphone here?
I don't feel to get up.
Oh, all right. You're an employee, though, right?
Yes,
Okay,
I am.
go ahead.
Is it to deliver excellent service?
It's a great question. I mean, I'm going to ask our mellifluously voiced CFO to read the mission statement, because why not? It should be in the record.
Sure.
It's like we're getting ready for Passover here. I make everyone read something, so go ahead.
The Metropolitan Transportation Authority preserves and enhances the quality of life and economic health of the region. It serves through the cost-efficient provision of safe, on-time, reliable, and clean transportation services.
That does. And so, is there any comments about our mission statement? Anyone like to opine? No, it's all good. Okay, very good. Then do we know no vote required? Just acknowledge.
Last time it was updated? Last year.
It was updated.
Yep.
We made corrections last year.
We vote on it every year. I don't know that it's been edited.
Right.
So we just need to introduce it in this committee and then, but not vote on it?
No, you're going to vote to recommend it.
Oh, okay, so we do need a vote on it. Okay, so someone said no. All right, well, we do want to vote or not on this? Because you're saying no, you're saying yes. Okay, God bless. All right. Well, given that clarity of the mission and supporting stakeholder assessment and performance, what? Yeah, we're taking it right here, right now. Can I have a motion to recommit ourselves to the mission and the performance standards of the MTA? Thank you, David. Second. Thank you, Sammy.
I'll second.
Okay.
I would refer to infinity and beyond, but we'll
Any deletions, corrections, omissions, or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstention. The mission statement will be passed on to the board for full approval. Okay, I think we're next up. Anything else to add, Julia? Thank you very much. Next, we have Sergio. Let me just briefly welcome Sergio to the MTA. Sergio Panek, why don't you just give us your brief bio, where you're coming from, and we'd love. Yes. I have, but this is his first month.
No.
Yes.
Second month, first committee meeting.
Yeah. Just because you met him doesn't mean everyone doesn't know him. I want to give him the opportunity to be welcomed and be appreciated, because we look forward to you were long in search, so we're thrilled to have you, sir.
I am procurement man.
Tell us about yourself, please.
Sergio Paneke, blessed to be leading procurement for the MTA. Came to New York in 2010 from the state of Michigan, where I served a number of different roles, one of which being Chief Procurement Officer. Worked for at the DCAS as a Deputy Commissioner for Procurement, and then the state of New York, and the head of OGS. And then I was with the New York City Housing Authority for 5 years as the CPO, and have the pleasure of now serving the MTA, this board, Lizette, in furthering the mission, customer service, savings, efficiency, and we will save money, no doubt.
All
So
right,
thank you so much.
We look
Chair.
forward to your hard-nosed negotiating skills with our various vendors, as well as your mellifluous voice, because your predecessor, although long ago, had quite a voice. So we look forward to you reading these long documents to us.
So shall we be.
No, I'm not kidding. It's a big part of the job.
Lizette's
flo-
taking offense.
No, but well, you were wonderful, but you were not. You kept telling me how you were interim all the time. So I'm talking about your predecessor. Anyway, Sergio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. There are 6 MTA headquarters items this month for Finance Committee approval in the estimated amount of $345.8 million. These actions are found in the March 26 Finance Committee book. The first item is a request for the board to approve an award of an informal competitive miscellaneous service contract to JRU Incorporated for the delivery and implementation of Hastis module, providing a new crew dispatch and management system under an immediate operating need. This system will support the picking, crew management, dispatching, and time reporting process for MNR and Long Island Railroad. Implementation includes assisting MTA in configuring MTA's non-production and production environments, installing software, providing procedures for testing and acceptance, and training. This 8-year contract, having an estimated value of $20.5 million, is $2.6 million, or 11% below a competitor's pricing, and 50% below license fees charged by JRU to the industry. This contract provides 35 months of implementation and the outer years of software maintenance and support. The second item is a request that the board approve the modification of a non-competitive miscellaneous service contract, also at JRU, to extend the existing licensing and support of the Hastis module, providing a centralized train and bus scheduling system currently being used by NYC Transit, Department of Buses, MTA Bus Company, in the amount of $4.2 million. This modification also includes upgrading LIR's Hastis training scheduling system from the 2014 version to the 2027 version, along with 5 years of licensing and support for $4 million. The total value of this modification is $8.2 million, which reflects the 50% below license fees charged by JRU to the industry and reduction of annual maintenance escalation rate from 4 to 2.5%. This upgrade will take up to 16 months and will streamline LIR's data, schedule development, strengthening critical quality control processes. Services for the above user agencies will co-terminate in March of 2032. The third item is a request for the board to approve a competitively negotiated personal services retainer contract to 50 consulting firms to provide as-needed information technology consulting services. The contracts will have a $0 value, and specific tasks will be assigned competitively through a mini RFP process among the selected firms in specific IT consulting categories. The firms selected offer the best combination of required qualifications, technical expertise, cost efficiency, and resources to meet the MTA's needs. Through negotiations, hourly rates were reduced by a range of 9.5 to 19%. Negotiated annual escalation rates were reduced from the proposed 5% to under 2%, which is below the 3.7% average CPI. All established hourly rates under this contract are ceiling rates for the 10-year term. However, qualified vendors can propose lower rates at the time of the task order process. The contract term is for 10 years with a total estimated value of $300 million. The fourth item is a request for board approval to extend 11 competitively solicited all-agency personal services contracts for 12 months from the period of April 1st, 2026 through March 31st of 2027, and increase the aggregate amount of these contracts by an amount not to exceed $6 million for the provision of transportation planning and conceptual design services. This extension allows for completing and awarding an active replacement RFP. The extension and additional funding are necessary to address and support critical initiatives including environmental assessment and impact studies, advancement of promising expansion projects from the 2025 to 2029 capital program, and rail network strategy studies. These contracts awarded in March of 2021 expedite hiring specialized consultants to support these efforts. To date, 19 work assignments have been awarded for a total amount of $23.6 million. All services performed have been deemed satisfactory and provided value to the MTA. Rates established in the base contract will remain unchanged for this extension. Upcoming projects planned include the 125th Street Subway conceptual designs, Hudson Line to Penn Station study, Jamaica Station planning, and a communications-based train control study. The fifth item is a request that the board approve the ratification of an ION and approve the award of a miscellaneous service agreement to Power Trunk Incorporated in the estimated amount of $6 million. Following the issuance of a notice to proceed in December 2025, a one-year contract was awarded in January 26 for comprehensive 24/7 maintenance, support, and infrastructure upgrades for DOB's Bus Command Center bus radio systems, which supports mission-critical communications for over 6,000 buses and 1,200 portable unit radios. The competitive bidding process for a long-term contract will take place during this one-year period. The ION was authorized to prevent a lapse in safety-critical coverage following the expiration of the warranty period in December 25 and a refusal by the previous vendor to acknowledge a unilateral option exercised by the MTA. Power Trunk is the original equipment manufacturer responsible for manufacturing 75% of the core radio infrastructure provided as a subcontractor to the previous vendor and has successfully provided maintenance services under previous contract since 2026. Negotiations for pricing of these critical services for the year yielded a 15% or $1.1 million reduction from Power Trunk's original proposal of $7.1 million down to $6 million. This one-year cost is 30% or $2.6 million below last year's maintenance cost under the previous contract of $8.6 million, maintaining the same service levels and scope requirements. The sixth and final item is a request that the board approve the ratification of an ION and approve the award of a 5-year, January 20th to 26th through January 19th of 2031, non-competitive miscellaneous service contracts to Justice One for the urgent implementation of an e-citation system for electronic summons issuance by the MTA Eagle Team Special Inspectors, and in the future, the MTA PD. The implementation of e-citations will streamline the issuance process, cutting processing time by 30% and boosting summons volume by 38% per Eagle shift. Justice One currently provides an e-citation platform used by police departments and municipalities in Georgia, Texas, and the Carolinas, demonstrating a proven operational foundation. Through negotiations, a licensing and co-development model was agreed upon that maintains MTA control, including MTA branding, cloud hosting, full service code escrow, and a clear exit strategy that provides source code ownership and avoids long-term vendor lock-in. Included in the contract is 1 year of implementation, followed by 4 years of recurring licensing, maintenance, and support services. The estimated amount is $5 million.
Wow, impressive, Sergio, clear, error-free, and almost breath-free. So well
Thank you. Got through. How much time did it take?
Well done.
Thank you.
So, are there any questions for Sergio on any one item, please? And
Hi, Sergio. On that long list of items you mentioned, one of them was CBTC, but you didn't give the location. What track, what section of track, what geographic location you were talking about for that inspection of CBTC?
I do not know what section of track that is.
we'll get you. Will that change your view on the project? Just FYI. Okay. All right.
Back to you. Thank you, board member.
Other questions on the 6 items, please, Chris.
Justice One, what does that include? Is that hardware and software? Is that devices? What is that?
It is, I believe we do have the IT department here to answer a question.
Come up to the mic. Take a mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good, good. How are you? What was the question again, sir?
Chris asked what is included in the Justice One procurement, software, hardware, et cetera.
Right, so it is software and professional services that is we are getting through Justice One. The printer hardware that the Eagle team will be carrying is procured through our existing partner, Zebra.
Are there a number of units, devices? What are the
Yes, so we are
deliverables?
getting about 250 units for now. I think we have a total of 330 Eagle team members right now. So we're launching in a phased manner. We'll start off with the first 200 with the pilot. And once the pilot is proven, we will then phase out the rest of the rollouts.
Good?
Thank
You
you.
want to say something?
Yeah, the one thing that I would note on that, right, through negotiations, as Sergio mentioned in his points, is that the MTA controls it, right, from the licensing fee to development in the future. So we're not beholden to Justice One for any upgrades or modifications.
Okay, other questions? Please.
The new CMS system for the joint railroads, is there a timeline when that will be implemented involved in the contract?
I'd like to defer again to.
Dino DiPietro, Deputy Chief Officer, MTA IT. The overall plan is 35 months. That includes both railroads together. The implementation is going to be dovetailed. 6-month lead on Metro North. They have the more legacy system, the one that's in more dire need of repair, followed right behind with Long Island Railroad. So the overall time frame is 35 months.
Thank you very much.
You're
Okay, other questions? Thank you, those are good ones, and please don't be shy about asking questions, that's our job. I'm going to recuse myself from item number 3, as my firm is one of the 50 consulting firms on the list. Otherwise, I'll vote for the record on the other ones. Any other recusals of need? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the slate of all 6 at once?
So moved.
Thank you, Hada. Second, Sammy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions. The motions pass. Thank you very much, Sergio. And we will move back to Jake for information items.
So the first information item is the MTA's annual prompt payment summary. So New York State prompt payment legislation requires MTA to pay contract bills within 30 days or pay interest in certain cases where payments are delayed beyond that 30-day threshold. The prompt payment report for 2025 shows that MTA met this threshold nearly every time. Of 799,794 invoices paid in 2025, only 31 were deemed late, or less than 0.01%. I'm happy to take any questions that any board members have.
Questions? Sounds prompt. Thank you very much. Okay, Olga, we have an information item on the annual public hearing on projects proposed for federal funding, please.
Annual public hearing on capital projects for federal funding is an important step in securing federal support for our capital program. As we've discussed at this committee, MTA receives over $2 billion annually in federal formula grants, and we also actively pursue funding from FTA discretionary grant programs. These annual public hearings allow customers and stakeholders to review proposed capital projects and provide feedback. This year's hearing was held last month in February and covered a program of approximately $14.4 billion in projects, including rolling stock replacement, bus purchases, ADA improvements, and state of good repair initiatives, just to name major categories. While this program is significantly larger than the MTA's typical annual funding, right? We heard $14.4 billion. Annually, we receive over $2 billion. It is intentionally structured to provide flexibility in project selection, support multi-year planning, and prioritize critical infrastructure and accessibility improvements. We really try to make these public hearings as convenient and accessible to public and our customers as possible. The hearing takes place in person, but you can also participate by Zoom, and you can also submit your comments in writing by email or by snail mail ahead of the hearing itself. We received numerous comments, many of which align with what the board hears during its own meetings. But just to give you a few highlights, public comments included feedback on the new rolling stock and bus acquisitions and how they best utilized within the system. We also received comments on ADA improvements, and this continues to be a big topic, a big advocacy topic for our customers, and a range of other comments. This hearing represents an early step in the 2026 grant-making process, positioning us to advance project efficiently and remain eligible for federal support. This is the final year of the IIJA authorization, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and we expect the federal funding, federal formula funding we receive this year to be in line with prior years, allowing continued progress in our capital priorities. This concludes my remarks, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for Olga on this federal funding hearings? Hearing none. Thank you, Olga. Sergio, back over to you for an agency procurement.
Chair, there's one information item for Long Island Railroad, a contract award to 7 vendors to provide as-needed construction support of the MTA Grade Crossing Safety Improvement Program, and one information item for Bridges and Tunnels, 4 contract awards to multiple vendors for miscellaneous intelligent transportation system and operation systems consultant design services on an as-needed basis. There are no information items for New York City Transit or Metro North Railroad.
Reminder, this is effectively a fail-safe system. These are already approved in other committees today. That's just FYI here. Since most people, I think, were in those meetings already, I think we can move on. We have consolidated reports in the book, and we will end with everyone's favorite topic. David, the floor is yours for real estate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 5 action items and 3 information items, one of which is a presentation to the committee. Of the 5 action items, 3 are administrative items of the MTA, and they include the annual all-agency real property disposition guidelines and all-agency personal property disposition guidelines required pursuant to the Public Authorities Law. The second item is the consolidation amendment of MTA real estate policies governing licensing of MTA agency property to tenants and the licensing of outside properties by MTA agencies for operational use. This is a consolidation of over 35 years of some 17 policies promulgated over that time. This is an effort to basically consolidate and update them to give us a greater market flexibility. And the last is the restatement of the MTA real estate licensing and policy governing construction access agreements. I'll pause. That's the end of the action items.
Yeah, we can take a. We need a vote on that? No.
All three. You need a vote on all
fine.
three.
So let's take a vote on these administrative items. Any questions first? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the 3 administrative? Oh, that's a motion. Yes. Thank you, David. Second. Thank you, Sammy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. And the 2 transactional items, please.
The 4th item is Long Island Railroad is leased with Holden, Rose, and Grupp for cafe and wine bar in East Hampton Station. And the 5th is for Metro Railroad and lease with Marquis Caviar for retail space in Grand Central Terminal.
If only I could afford to go to East Hampton, I'd like to visit that cafe, but it sounds great. And caviar, obviously, I'm not. If I can't go to East Hampton, I'm not eating caviar in Grand Central, but maybe others can. A motion to approve both these items. Thank you, Hada. Second. Thank you, Sammy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. David, information items?
So there were 3. One is the annual report on Grand Central Terminal, which we have a presentation for. The second is our monthly report on agreements entered directly by the Real Estate Department. And the third is an amendment to an agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase that was presented to the Capital Program Committee earlier today. Last month, both President Vonacek and Chairman Lieber had very generous remarks made about the progress made at Grand Central Terminal. And President Vondrack in particular highlighted the partnership between Metro North and MTA Real Estate. That is the reason why we've been so successful in repopulating our retail and really almost a 50% increase in our event revenue. And there's no better way to exemplify that partnership. I have two key players. Kim Travison is the director of GCT Leasing for Real Estate Department, and Eric Baez is the chief of GCT Operations for Metro North, and I've asked them to present the annual report.
Hello. So I want to just start with our title page here, which talks about the program objective, which is in the disposition guidelines. And this is really our guiding star when it comes to how we approach retail in Grand Central. 2025, we really had a standout year. I would say that the reason for that is really because of all the foundational work that we did in the previous years. With the objective, for the program objective in mind, we really had a tactical strategy in crafting short-term deals, but also targeting specific space improvements in order to attract quality tenants, creating a sense of demand and strategizing that the revenue would follow. And the important part of that is really the collaboration between the Metro North teams and the GCT retail teams in implementing that strategy. This increase, this very substantial increase over this last year is really driven by three things. The very first thing is occupancy. Our goal was to fill all the vacant spaces, and in 2024 we had 14 openings. Last year we had 5 openings. That's 19 openings in 2 years. The goal of that really was to revitalize empty spaces within Grand Central. Some of those spaces were small, some of them were big, but all of them required work within their spaces, some of it more complicated than others.
Yeah, for sure. The complications were obvious. With occupancy increasing at almost 100%, one of the key drivers that continues to prove successful is the collaborative efforts of the groups involved. Under the leadership of President Vondrack, we've been able to unify Grand Central Station operations team, reporting to Phil Diaz, to include building maintenance and fire brigade. The unification of these groups has provided the real estate team with a partnership of streamlined resources that have increased response time, efficiency, and productivity within the daily operations and construction build-outs.
So these two pictures specifically I put in here. One required extensive work to shaft repair work to bring it up to code, and for the Charles Truitt space on 42nd Street, we had to reconfigure, work with Metro North forces to reconfigure the fire alarm system as well as the HVAC system, essentially creating a new space. All of this paved the way for new quality tenants to come into Grand Central, bringing vibrancy back to vacant spaces and really building a strong co-tenancy roster. The second driver was percentage sales, percentage rent. This is based off of retail sales. Typically, in a retail deal, you negotiate a breakpoint, a threshold, where above that, retail sales, a percentage of retail sales is shared with the landlord, meaning Metro North in this case. Restaurants, in 2023 is really the sort of, and this is very simplifying it, but around the $150 million sales mark is where we start to see a percentage of sales as rent to the MTA. Restaurants being our most robust contributor to percentage sales. Restaurants are a complicated build, though.
Yeah, so as Kim mentioned, as we see the trajectory of sales and percentages of rent increase, I would like to thank all the groups involved in making this mission possible. Keeping in mind we live in a building that's approximately 113 years old. Every time we engage in a full build-out, we often reveal challenges that are uncovered behind the walls. These challenges require input from different trades, subject matter experts, both internal and external, that drive the success of the completion of these projects. This, along with process improvement discussions to meet deadlines and the ownership we all take every day to make these numbers a reality.
So with the restaurants being our biggest contributor, plus our marketing, we've created new reasons to come to Grand Central, to linger a little bit longer, increasing dwell time, increasing sales activity, and therefore increasing our rent. The third driver, which may not be so initially intuitive, is events and sponsorships. In 2025, we far exceeded our expectations, and really that is because of some of our program process changes that we've made.
So this slide in particular, we've put a lot of effort into making this number happen. In the previous slide, we touched on process improvement meetings. Sometimes it's also good to reflect on how we got here and what changed. The event process and approval times for incoming events was the topic of conversation for both teams involved. After further review of the process, we agreed that by creating an approval system that tracked progress, assigned accountability, we would be streamlining decision-making and reducing time spent on each event. This, along with unification of all the departments involved, increased efficiency, productivity, but most of all, it allowed us to do something we couldn't accomplish before: approve events within days of requested load-in, allowing us to nearly double the amount of events the team can support. These numbers are a testament that processes must be evaluated frequently to gauge impact and effectiveness, but also key that when all departments involved work as a team, our success rates can nearly double.
Last year, we had 82 events spanning 244 days. Many days we had multiple events throughout the terminal happening. But more than the revenue that comes in with each event tenant or sponsor brings their own PR and their own marketing team with them. So they amplify, they paint the picture of Grand Central being a place where things are happening, but they also amplify Grand Central as a brand to reach an audience that is far greater than we could ever do on our own. And with that and our tenants and our own marketing programs, we were able to create this, create a press narrative around Grand Central that it is the place to go. We want people to keep Grand Central front and center and front in mind, talking about who they see, what they're going to do, and where they're going to eat. All of this ties back to the success of our tenants and then ultimately to our success. But we're also not done in planning new opportunities. In 2026, we have over a dozen RFPs that are scheduled, and these RFPs are meant to convert our short-term deals that we have done in previous years into longer-term, more stable, more lucrative agreements. But the other thing that we're doing is also looking at where we can identify additional spaces to create additional retail and additional activity. Working closely together with Eric and his teams to identify where we can pull utilities, where we can, where we need to make space improvements. We've been able to look at underutilized or converting underutilized spaces into revenue-generating spaces. And all of this is about creating a sense of place in one of New York's greatest public spaces, where activity drives demand, demand drives value, and that has been our main objective as we look at the overall program objective and retail's contribution to Metro North's overall transportation mission. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Questions? Let's go Chris, then Haida, and then, Edward, then Chris. Edward, Haida, Chris. That's the order you did it. Sorry, Edward, Haida, Chris.
Yes, thank you for that presentation. How do you solicit for prospective tenants?
Sure. We have CBRE as our leasing broker. We do RFPs where we publish available properties and go through a system, a process that's identified in the retail disposition guideline, real estate disposition guidelines. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. I have one more question. For those individuals that want to have events in this space, is there a minimum requirement, a minimum monetary requirement?
Yeah, so we have a rate chart and that we work off of. Last year we actually had a third-party consultant come in and help us establish what those rates are. So yes, the answer to your question is yes. However, I would say that there are different places throughout the terminal, so it could fit a budget depending on what the opportunity is. It could fit different budgets.
There are also nonprofit rates that are lower than general market rates.
Haida, then Ed.
So that, the chart that you had showing what our revenue was in 2019,
Yes. I don't know how to go back.
it's about
back at the
$10
bottom.
million that when do we think we're going to get back up to, will we get back up to 19 levels? There it is.
Yes. So that's a target that is sort of plastered right in our office about where we want to get to. I think there's a lot of factors that influence how we get to that space. What we're seeing currently is that the per square foot rates are lower than they were in 2019. So what that means is we have to be a little bit more creative about how we generate revenue. So that means about creating more spaces, looking at where we can generate revenue in terms of events, right? That was one of the big pushes in terms of consolidating that process. It is also about looking at marketing and how we work with the tenants to pull them together and increase their sales and cross-promote. And the percentage rent really, I think, is a place where we can find value.
One illustration is Marquis Caviar that we took for you today. They're the sole proposer. Their first year rent is their last year's rent under a slightly post-COVID situation. So we're not getting anywhere near the initial rents pre-COVID.
And it includes Grand Central Madison space as well, right? No, this is just Grand Central space and none of the Madison space. Okay.
Maybe at another meeting, you can give us an update on Madison. It'd be useful. Thank you, Hayden. Other questions? What? Oh, Ed, please.
I was actually going to ask about Grand Central Madison, so thank you. But I just want to say kudos to the team for really leveraging Metro North's best asset, greatest asset, Grand Central. Ridership levels have really trended upwards, but they're not at the same level pre-COVID. So you're doing a great job getting there. I like to see this continue. It's a very good. It's really trending in the right direction. So thanks for all the work your team did to get us there. And then, I'm interested in Grand Central Madison. I know there was a restaurant, I think, added last year, I want to say. It's just in the future, if we could get a
Tracks
update on
open
that.
last fall.
Yeah, just wondering how that's doing. So thank you.
Ed, thank you for your point. I think we all agree that it is the jewel of our real estate, maybe across the entire system. It is breathtaking, and you see that many brands want to make use of that. Severance did an incredible piece. Alicia Keys was there for the big 50th anniversary. I saw several hundred people standing there waiting for someone to come out, and I kept looking, what are all these people doing here? And didn't have the time to wait, but it's extraordinary what our asset can do, and thank you for trying to leverage the most out of it, especially with a 20-some-odd% reduction in ridership from pre-COVID, so thank you.
I will take the moment to highlight the railroad ridership, right? January, February did trend down, but the previous 6 months, we were about 90% of pre-COVID levels on both commuter rail. So that is tremendous effort by the railroads in the ridership increase that we're seeing based on their performance and customers returning. So I just wanted to give that kudos.
Thank you for that. Okay, any new business for the committee? Hearing none, motion to adjourn. Thank you, David. Second, Hayda. All right, thank you all. See you next month.